Hey everybody, my name is Patrick and I'm the founder of FieldWorks Software. In this video, we are going to cover the ultra basic aspects of connecting with our scoreboard software, DisplayWorks. So if you have experience with DisplayWorks or other scoreboard software, this is probably a video that you can skip. But in this video, we are going to cover the aspects of getting it connected to two programs. We're going to use Finish Links and Meet Pro. We're going to talk about some ways that things can actually not arrive, how DisplayWorks works kind of in general, so that you have a little bit of a better understanding, and we should help out with some troubleshooting. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is where do you get DisplayWorks? You get it at fieldworks.app, and there's a link in the description below, of course, and then you can go and explore purchasing options, which takes you to a secure Square site. But the most important thing about the homepage is where to actually find stuff. People ask me all the time, where are the downloads? Well, they're right here. Here you can find the LSS files that you'll need for using Finish Links. Soon there will be some other LSS, RSS files for stuff. But for the time being, you can download it here. You'll also get a link in the email when you actually purchase the software. Most important thing, though, is the documentation. The documentation is updated by me regularly. Now it's where do you get your boards? Now, obviously, if we're at a stadium and they have a inboard LED system, we're using that. But that's a very different setup than if we are using our own display boards. Now we have a bunch of what they're called A-series video wall guys right here. They're basically rental boards is what they're referred to as. Why are they referred to as rental? Well, because they're easy to move around. They are relatively lightweight and pretty useful. So you can see here we've got two of them and they are connected. We're using these little guys right here. And then what you do is actually just daisy chain them together. So you hook one board to the next with power up top and then an Ethernet signal down here using Ethernet cables. It's not an Ethernet signal, but anyway. These are super lightweight. I've been really happy with them. They do modify the design here and there, so my boards don't look exactly like this, but they are overall very, very lightweight and super, super useful, especially because I have some older boards as well. Man, they are incredibly heavy by comparison. So now this is just a store that I have personally used. They have a 96.6% rating here on AliExpress. I've bought from them twice. I've had good experiences. They ship really, really quickly. The last purchase I made from them was back in November 2023. They shipped the boards within like 3 or 4 days. And so they were within a week of my ordering, they were in the USA. And then they sat there for like 8 days waiting for the customs clearance to come in and then get delivered. But you are looking between 400 and 500 per panel. 3.91 is super nice. I'm really happy with these, but they come down and you can make them in P8 or whatever. But anyway, just know that there's a little bit more of a risk involved because you're buying from a company that's based in a different country through a website, and it's just not got the same set of regulations. Now, I believe they do take PayPal, so there's really not that much risk. And again, I've had good experiences with them. They have sent me information. I've communicated to them which actual sending units I've wanted. We'll talk about those in a moment. This is not an endorsement. They're not sponsoring or anything like that. I just have had people ask me all the time, where do you get your boards? AliExpress, Shenzhen Lightal is where I get my boards, and overall I've been pretty happy with them. Additionally, they will help with the custom stuff, so they sent me the customs information about what code they need to be entered into and everything, and it's been very, very easy dealing with them. How do these things actually work? Well, they have a example down here, and the thing is, these are 15 panels put together. Okay, so we can kind of see, we can come up top, and this is a panel right here. These are the connectors for one to another going up and down. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, and then approximately 1, and then 2, and then 3 on the way down. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 on the way down, 3 by 5. How are they actually set up? Well, they're set up in a serpentine fashion. So you'll have the input from the sending unit will come in, and then you'll kind of serpentine your way around the boards, connecting one to another. And then in the software, you'll say like, hey, this is being set up in this fashion, in this order. And so that's which, what order the actual panels are in. And then from there, it's usually able to kind of on its own figure out like what the actual card order is and everything. But there is some setup to be done. And Shenzhen Lightal will do what they can to help, but every one of these boards is kind of different. Some people have contacted me and say, hey, can you help me set up? I'm like, I really can't, because it's one of those things where you kind of need to be there in order to know what the pattern is and to make sure all of these things. Now, once you get it saved, you can save a profile. And that profile can usually just kind of work. And so if your sending unit ever forgets what it's supposed to do, you pull up that saved profile and you'll be good to go. The thing that happens to me the most is that I just forget which side to plug it in on, because we typically run 1x4 boards. And if you set them up here, they'll be in the reverse order. It'll look kind of wonky. And so you just move the cord and then you'll be good to go. But again, it's not something that I can personally provide support for, because I don't know what kind of boards you have and what sending and everything. Like, there's a whole bunch of extra stuff that is beyond the scope of this video, but that is the kind of basic thing. Now, if you were using an in-stadium display, there's going to be some sort of conversion box and software that's going to take an entirety of an image and scale it down so that it fits on this board. But the important thing to know, and the way that DisplayWorks is set up, is so that you can run a 1-to-1 ratio of pixels. So this is 128 by 128. So this is 640 across, and then it's going to be 384 tall. So what this is actually displaying is not, like a full scale video, 1080p or 720p. It's only displaying those, 800 pixels or 640 pixels by 384 pixels. And this will make sense in just a moment. Okay, so now we are actually into DisplayWorks, and one thing I'll immediately do is let's go and create a board with those specifications. 640 by 384, submit. So we're going to come up here and we're going to create the board, and we're just going to create it as a blank board. And you can see what we have is the rough shape of those boards that we saw in the image. 640 across by 384 tall. That's really important. This is how you're going to one-to-one match your boards if you've got, kind of your portable boards. Now, if you are using a in-stadium display, you would want to go ahead and match the resolution to your screen, which is 1920 by 1080 or something like that, because it will want to scale. And keep in mind, this is not the way your DisplayWorks is going to work. I'm using a beta build, and also I've got the menu bar enabled for kind of some weird reasons as far as the sizing. DisplayWorks on your screen will take up the entirety of the screen. So you'd want all of this black to exist. This gray zone is purposely here. This is where nothing will be displayed. So if you can see this gray zone on your screens, then you've got the wrong setup as the size of the boards, okay? And then to get back to that setup screen, you just click on the board itself, the black area. So if I click over here, nothing, but if I click there, perfect. We're back. Okay. Now, most important is that DisplayWorks is a what you see is what you got style of program. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab Meet Pro, and then we're going to send the test data. And we're going to see on screen, we'll go to 5 because I know this is, okay. We're going to see on screen, we'll get 5 lines. This is all test information. This data is stored by the program. So if you see this data, great, you are accessing the internal data, but it's not your data. The reason I include this data is so that you'll know what it looks like, because oftentimes when you're setting up some of these large scale displays and they're scaling and doing weird things, you'll not know how it's going to look until you actually get data up on board. This is data that will allow you to kind of get things dialed in before the event starts. So we'll come back. Notice that this data is not going anywhere. It's staying put, which is a problem because that means that DisplayWorks is not receiving any data. Now that's okay because I purposely have set this up this way. Meet Pro is not running on my computer right now, so I cannot get any information, but it is here to show you kind of what's going on. So let's go get a software program that is actually sending data at the moment, which is finish links. So we're going to say send test data, yes. And what's going to happen is we're going to go to it and there's going to be test data that's on screen for a moment, and then it's going to get changed over to the actual data that's coming from finish links. There's that test data. There's the data actually from finish links that I have going on. This is from an event this past fall. Okay, so data is coming here from finish links, which is really, really helpful to know. So if you get to the phase where you're trying to look at information and get information into the program, and you're in the proper proper program and everything, and it should be sending data, if you're not getting anything, it means that DisplayWorks is not properly connected. Or more importantly, or more to the point, your program that is sending data to DisplayWorks is not properly connected. So you might want to check your and make sure that DisplayWorks is allowed through your firewall program and everything. But if you're not seeing this, if this test data is not getting replaced, then you're not getting any information. Now we can go ahead and create a board without the test data and nothing is there until we get the information, which is good. Again, we're getting data from there. But if we were to go to Meet Pro, we're going to be waiting for a long time for data to arrive. Now I have set some display, kind of default colors, just so that you make sure that you have kind of the ability to see stuff. Because we had some people initially who wouldn't set their colors and they'd go straight to create a board, and because they hadn't set any colors, they couldn't see anything on screen, which is obviously not that helpful. So again, I've got all these colors set up, but you'll want to go ahead and set up your colors just to make sure. And you do that very simply. You can use the color wheel, or you can kind of select a color, and then what you would be doing is setting that color to that particular color. So we'll change the header color. This will look terrible, but still, we can see that header color is now green, and here we go. And of course, we can come back and let's do white again and change it back. Okay, so now we've set our colors. Of course, you want to set font sizes too. This can all kind of be done just kind of generally at first. You'll kind of get a sense when you actually dig in and start setting up the board. But one thing we want to show is where do we get the time from. So we'll come down here and we're going to show running time. Will give us all these options for the time location. We can have it in the header bar, or we can have it lower, and then we can change the location of it. We're going to keep it right here though, in the center, and we'll go ahead and create the board. There's the running time. Now Lynx has a weird thing where if you're showing a running time, you cannot actually get results from the same board. Normally I've got this set up on two different ones, but for right now I don't. Anyway, that's that. Also, what does multiple number of boards? Oh, I need to change that number of, all right, that's a weird error. But we can run two boards at the same time, and you'll see in a moment they'll all come up twice. Now we run this board setup actually quite frequently with our own panels, because we'll run four panels in a row, and then we'll run the same four panels, or different panels, but we'll run the same thing on all four panels. So you'll see the time and the results on one side, and then you'll finish, and then they'll be on the other side. We set them up in a kind of a triangle shape, basically. So there's that. So the most important thing to take away from all of this is that all this information is being linked up. So on a real basic level, what DisplayWorks is doing is it's creating a server. So you're sending data to that server, and then that server is then dispersing it to whichever board that you're actually using. So that's why we can actually use multiple boards to get different information from multiple different sources. So there's a multi-board setup on here where we can set up, we have to load the boards from file, but you can load up a board from Finish Links, and you can load up a board from Meet Pro, and you can set them up in various locations on screen. And that way you can have information from multiple different sources showing up at any given point in time. That's not very useful right now, but it is available. And then also streaming. With streaming, you are going to be able to see, kind of a setup where there's a green screen background for everything. And this would be something you would want to take into, VBS or whatever it is, OBS, and vMix and OBS in order to display graphics on screen if you are streaming an event. And again, you can set this up, and actually you can set up a different location for the time. You can see here it's actually technically off screen, but it is available. And again, same logic, just click on the board itself and we're back to the setup page and we're good to go. So that is the absolute most basic ideas with DisplayWorks. So the question is, how am I getting all this data back into to DisplayWorks? So as I said, it's setting up a very small server, basically nearly invisible, but that's where data is coming in. So from Meet Pro, how we'd set this up is we go to Scoreboards and Result TV, and then we are going to use TCP 127.0.0.1 45999. That's the specific port that works for Meet Pro currently. And then we can say we'll do this, and then we start. Now 127.0.0.1, that is the local machine. Okay, that is only the local machine. So that's nothing to do with anything beyond that and kind of major, but that's only going to work with this particular computer basically. Okay, so you can see, let's go back to one of these and create the board. So that's information. We can see that this information matches up completely with what you're seeing on the monitor here in Meet Pro. So again, if you've got Meet Pro doing this and you're sending to the right address and everything, this is what you should be seeing. And if you're a real beginner with this, it really is a good idea to go ahead and set up DisplayWorks on the same computer as you're running Meet Pro in order to just kind of get an idea of how the data is being sent. So that's it coming from Meet Pro. And we'll talk about IP addresses in just a moment, but first of all, let's come and talk about how we get information from finish links. So again, we'll go to options and scoreboards, and we'll come down here, and we've got DisplayWorks results and DisplayWorks time. The names of these are not important specifically, but we are using the proper LSS file. If you do not see the DisplayWorks LSS files, that means that they are not either in the /links folder, or you need to reboot the software, because that's going to be the thing. You can't just put them in on the fly. It's sort of a weird thing. Links loads all these things up when it boots up, so you need to come in and reboot it basically. Same thing for these scoreboards. If you set it up, it will say not connected, not running. You'll need to reboot finish links, and then it'll start working. And again, we have specific ports, 4699 for the time, and then we have 44999 or 46999 and 44999 for finish links to DisplayWorks specifically. And again, they're on 127.0.0.1. This IP address does trip a lot of new people up. The IP address is the IP address of the machine. Now in this case, again, I'm using DisplayWorks on the same computer. So the only one that matters is this 127.0.0.1. But if you come down here, you can see I've got several different machines that are running DisplayWorks, and they all have discrete, individual addresses. So these are labeled 192.168.0.43. The reason why I've got these set up like this is that my main finish links computer is 192.168.0.5. And what finish links then does is it assigns the numbers above that 5 number to cameras. So 192.168.0.6 is the first camera that you are going to bring in, and then 7 is the second, and the third will be 8, 9, so and so on. So what I've got set up is all of our finish links computers are 192.168.0.5. And then all of our Meet Pro computers are some sort of slight variation of that in the low 20s, 21, 22, 23. And then our DisplayWorks computers are in the 40s, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, so that all these things do not trip over themselves. We're never going to run 2 Finish Links instances, on the same, same network basically. So that's okay. But we might, that way we have interchangeability between all of our computers. But the most important thing is that you understand understand what the IP address of the DisplayWorks computer is so that you can send data to that address. Okay, that's the most important thing. That's what trips the most people up when they're very, very new users and new to trying to understanding the actual networking aspect of these programs. So your Finish Links computer is going to have one address, and your Meet Pro computer is going to have another, and your DisplayWorks computer is going to have another one still. And yes, we recommend that you run all these things on different computers. DisplayWorks in particular does not require a lot of energy or anything like that, so an older computer would be totally fine with it. So hopefully that helps. And through this all, I've realized that there are really two main things that I want to make sure that new users are aware of. One is to actually read the manual. I know that it's kind of a thing, especially for people who are like, well, I don't need this, so I'm going to chuck it. But the manual is something I worked quite hard on, and I've had people do testing with to make sure that it contains the information that is needed to actually operate the program. So there is great information in the manual. Sometimes I know it does help to go ahead and dive into the software and then kind of play around with it. But the manual's not that long. I really suggest reading it. Read the documentation to understand it. Once you have a better understanding of how the program is actually working, it should make a lot more sense. The second thing is, if things are still not kind of arriving, you really do need to check your firewall state and kind of make sure that things are actually able to come in. Using the local machine address at 127.0.0.1 address is really, really helpful in order to make sure that you have some sort of communication, because usually that local machine thing will allow you to subvert any firewall statuses. So if you've got a program that's on your computer with DisplayWorks and it is able to send information over to it, but another program, the same program from another computer, is not able to send information over to it, then you'll know that there's some sort of problem in your networking, and hopefully you're able to solve it. If you're using Windows 10 or 11, it should be relatively easy to run some of these things down. If you're going back to like XP in Windows 7, some of those issues can be related to the home group status and everything, and that was a whole nightmare. I'm glad we've done away with it. That way, hopefully you've got your IP addresses set properly and they can actually communicate and send data, and then you can hopefully track down an issue. Maybe it's a firewall issue. So, thank you for watching. Good luck.